ho ho, it's me, Lucy, back at it again with a new episode of a Boy Time feature. This time on the Fallout TV show, Season 1. As always, I'm joined by Babby.
Wow.
It's the first time we've done a television show on one of these,
That's true.
which is pretty cool. Um, we tend to do games, and by tend, I mean 2 out of the 3 have been games. But it's still exciting.
This one's game related.
This one's game related. I think it. I don't really know why we decided to do this as a direct. But I've been doing my homework. I don't know if you have been doing your homework. I think you have. You mentioned that you've been playing
Um,
Fallout 3.
I've been playing Fallout 3, yes, if that counts as doing homework.
I think it does.
Okay.
It does. You know, I like all of my media consumption now has become homework for this podcast, which is surprising because it's probably not worth it. But that's
No,
fine.
but it gives you something to do.
It gives me something to do. It gives me direction. And so that's really what this came down to. So I've been going back also. I did a new playthrough of New Vegas. I did a Legion playthrough, which is fun. I've never done one of those. And then I tried to play Fallout 4, but I forgot that I don't like that game very much. And I think going from New Vegas to 4 was not very good because New Vegas is one of the best RPGs of all time. And then Fallout 4, like, it doesn't feel like your choices matter at all with anything. So I was just kind of disappointed. And then I just didn't touch 3 because I don't know. I don't really like that one either. So let's talk about the show, I guess. Because the show is, I guess, the most recent entry in the Fallout canon. I think it's the latest thing set in the timeline. After all of the games, it's the show, which is kind of surprising that most of the, well, not most, but a big chunk of the show takes place in a vault. And most of the vaults we see in the games are all decrepit and not habited by sane humans anymore. So it's kind of weird that there's a bunch of vaults that are just chill, but I guess that's neither here nor there. I guess we'll start by saying, what did you think of the television show?
I watched this thing so long ago. Um, I enjoyed it
Okay.
in a it in a way that's different than most of the TV I watch. This
Mm,
felt more like a low budget, kind of cheesy, kind of tongue in cheek thing, but I
mhm.
enjoyed it a lot. It hit the right notes for what I wanted from a Fallout show. I didn't want
Okay.
anything too serious. I didn't want anything too gray. I didn't want this like trend of everything being super gritty and edgy and
Mhm.
dark and complicated. I kind of liked just the simplicity they brought to it, and they told a very Fallout story
Yeah,
of the classic, "Oh my god, my dad left the vault. Let me go get him." And then
that's true.
shenanigans ensue. So,
That's true. It's a very Bethesda Fallout story.
yes.
Um, yeah, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I mean, I think it does strike the Fallout tone, which I think
Mhm.
is for those who have not experienced any Fallout stuff, I think it's kind of surprising to people first experiencing it how funny it is. Like it's a very serious like setting, nuclear apocalypse. There's mutants everywhere and there's blood and guts and horrible stuff. But like the tone of it is like strikes a really interesting balance where it'll go like from one moment being this really serious story with a lot of like real world ramifications to a goofy ghoul saying something silly, um, which I think the show does pretty well because it has a sense of humor to it, that isn't totally like Joss Whedon, like, oh, this is like ridiculous, and we know it's ridiculous, so we're giving a little wink to the camera. It never does that, which is good. I think in a setting like this, You kind of have to have the Sam Raimi approach when it comes
Yeah.
to comedy writing, where it's like, yes, it's silly, but the story takes itself seriously. It's never like, what? Can you believe that there's a giant axolotl that ate a head? That's nuts. And like they address it at the camera directly. Like, yes, we know it's goofy, but the story sets
Well,
up
that
these real
just
stakes.
happened.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't lean into that, which I think is good, because I think
It
that's gotten
strikes a
old.
very fine balance.
Yes, it
It,
rides that
it's
line.
yeah, like half of the comedy is like, were they meaning for this to be like kind of funny but kind of not? Like they
True.
strike this very specific balance of like kind of cheesiness that
Mhm.
works well without being too much.
Yeah. It's this kind of, like, almost dark humor you don't really see
Yeah.
anymore, because there was a lot of those like, when the original Fallout games were coming out in the '90s, there was a lot of these kinda, like, black humor, like, those types of movies coming out.
Mhm.
And then that kind of went away and now it doesn't really exist, but that the show kind of revitalizes it, which I think is kind of fun, where it's like, the ghoul is like eating his friend and like he's like telling like quasi jokes and I'm like, am I supposed to be laughing, because this is like horrible what's happening right now. um and like Lucy is like freaked out, and I feel like I would be too, but it's also kind of funny that this is happening. It's this interesting balance that I think the show does a pretty good job. I think that's my favorite part of the show is the comedy. Um, but like, what did you think of how all the factions are portrayed? Because we got some of the big ones, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, it was like we didn't really get much of the NCR, but it was like,
Not yet, but that'll be next season.
y-
Spoiler alert.
oh, spoiler! This whole thing is gonna have spoilers, so
It's yeah. These games are so old. Like,
yeah.
just put it out there. We're gonna be talking a wide range of things here.
Yes.
Um,
So if you don't
yeah.
want spoilers for any of the games or any of the
Stop.
show, stop, play it, and then come back. Um, I haven't played all the games all the way through. I've just played New Vegas all the way through, so I won't be spoiling much outside that. But
Well, at least you got in luck when this show came out because it is very New Vegas-y and less 3 and 4 in certain ways, and I think that
uh,
worked pretty well.
yeah,
It it's interesting because like it's funny because the show is like you can tell it didn't have the biggest budget, so I'm like they
yeah,
obviously just chose LA because it's the easiest thing to record in
right,
and get footage for and passes and all that stuff for
yeah.
filming. Um, but at the same time, it's like I'm glad they're playing into the New Vegas thing coming.
Hmm.
But I think the portrayal of the Brotherhood was really funny. It was like my favorite part of the show, and
Right.
just like portraying them as like these celibate nerds who like have a really stupid purpose and take themselves really seriously, but they're all just like 17-year-old military recruits.
Yeah. That's something that like I feel like most of the Bethesda entries kind of miss the mark on. Or like the original games in New Vegas hit exactly on the head that these guys are a bunch of like recluse weirdos that like hoard
Mhm.
technology because they think it's going to like better humanity in some like unforeseen future, but that future never seems to come. And it's like some of the Bethesda, like when they handle the Brotherhood, I feel like sometimes they miss that where it's like these guys have cool power armor, watch them punch
Yeah,
things. And that's
they
kind
take
of
it so seriously.
yeah, that's what I got worried about when like the first episode happens and we're seeing Lucy and we're seeing Maximus, and it's like, uh-oh, are the Brotherhood is going to be featured heavily. Are they going to mess it up? And I don't think they did. Um, they got the like
No.
religious zealotness that they have. Um, yeah, it was interesting. I was really worried, but I think it's pretty good. So
Yeah. What other factions were there? There's just
yeah,
Raiders. I'm surprised there wasn't more
Raiders.
Raiders.
There was a few Raiders. The
Yeah,
the Enclave exists, which is
it does.
interesting.
Yep.
Because I'm pretty sure the Enclave got wiped out in the second one. I don't. Did they come back? Is
They're
that
in 3, yeah,
is that okay? That's something that
and they're in
happens in
4.
three. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So okay, so they
But it
just
makes
ignore
sense,
that.
right? Because you're on that side of the states. So, like,
Oh,
in New Vegas, they're not gonna, they'll mention it maybe, but they're not gonna be enclave over in New Vegas.
well, the
That's halfway
Enclave
across the country.
is in New Vegas,
Oh, is it?
but it takes into account the events of two, where the people that you
Gotcha.
meet in the that were like Enclave are really old because the Enclave hasn't been around for like
Mhm,
decades. And so people will like mention, yeah, I used to like be in the Enclave. And I think you can recruit them all and they can fight at your side at the Battle of Hoover Dam. But it's like one of those things where like you don't get a quest marker. You just have to meet a bunch of people who mention that they
mhm.
were in the Enclave. It's kind of interesting how they play it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That one is like why you gotta bring them back because they were wiped out. That's like the whole thing that Fallout 2 does. But if they bring them back, I guess it's fair game. But
True. Yeah, we'll
yeah.
see.
I think it does get a little confusing, because
Yes.
a lot of Fallout, political commentary is like the factions are modeling themselves after modern day American government, like the NCR obviously is modeling itself after, and then the Enclave is just straight up the American government from the like Cold War that is just kind of hidden away, and then just you know they're in the shadows. It does kind of get messy if you have both of those because it's like two allegories for the American government. Like I don't know. I guess the Enclave is just more evil than the NCR is.
Yeah, they're more traditional, like, you know, whatever stupid 1776 loving kinda
Yeah,
faction,
right.
and NCR is just more of a, "Let's try to set up some form of government even though we don't really know exactly what we're doing."
Yeah. It
And then
it
you have, like, Caesar's Legion, who is just, like, straight up,
yeah,
like, fascist Roman, like, cosplayers.
that's what makes New Vegas really interesting because
It's funny.
the two main factions are modeling themselves after real world history. Because
Yeah.
the NCR is obviously the US and then Caesar's Legion is obviously Rome. Um, and that game is just super smart in how they
I do
do
hope
that.
they bring Caesar's Legion into the TV show because I think they could do some fantastic comedy writing with them.
Oh, they could. Caesar's Legion is probably one of my favorite factions in
Yeah.
any game, any RPG. Not because I like them, but I just think that they're funny. But also, when you talk to Caesar, he gives like salient like criticisms of democracy. He isn't just
Mhm.
like a crazy guy who like read a history book once and then is just like got off his rocker. I mean, he is, but like he does like he's like, look around you. These are the results of democracy. Like, say what you will about the Romans. It didn't end with everybody dying. I mean, maybe it would have if nukes existed in ancient Roman times, but there's actually
Perhaps.
stuff to say. I don't know if the show really had that kind of thing. Didn't really have a whole lot to say. It was kind of just a popcorn video game show, which is
Yeah.
fine.
But I did enjoy that, like, rather than digging too much into the factions and their kind of nonsensical ideology, we kind of got, like, pre-war stuff,
That's true.
which was, honestly more fascinating to me than
Hmm.
digging into the Brotherhood or the Enclave or anything else
Sure.
like that. Um, yeah, I feel like the show got its footing like 4 episodes in, and they actually had a pretty solid storyline.
Yeah.
The first couple episodes were kinda rough, you could tell they were still kind of, like, pitching it, I feel like, but
Mm-hmm.
I think Walton Goggins put this show on his back and
Oh,
just
he's
carried
so
it through.
good. I
Yeah.
love him. In everything he's in, he's like one of the best people. He's
Mhm.
just one of the best actors, I think. He's so underrated. And yeah, He's great, and I love that so much of the show focuses on him before
Yes.
the nuclear apocalypse, because that's like one of the most interesting like things in Fallout are the ghouls, like people that remember the like nuclear apocalypse, people that remember the before times that have like survived for hundreds of years because they're pumping themselves full of drugs and their like
Hmm.
skin is falling off. Like getting that before and after is really really interesting. And his like status as like Hollywood celebrity, I get they're doing like a whole Red Scare thing. I guess it would be like the fourth Red Scare or whatever at that point. Um, but I thought it was cool. I thought it was a neat little thing, and I like that Vault-Tec were just openly evil the whole time. It
I mean,
wasn't.
yeah, it makes sense. Every vault is an experiment, so that I like
Yeah,
how they're taking the high road and a lot of like high level stuff with this instead of being granular to the area we're at,
that's
which I
true.
think sets up the next season really well because we're gonna
Yeah.
have Mr. House and all
Oh,
these other like big people,
wait, House
from
is
like
gonna be in it?
Robco and everything. They mentioned him in the last episode.
They
I'm
do?
assuming they're yeah.
Oh,
You can actually see him in the last episode. They have
what?
like the board meeting or whatever.
Oh, is that
So you can
House?
see, yeah, you can see House and Robco and all the other like big companies that are throughout like Fallout games.
Oh,
So I like that angle they're taking because honestly, the most fascinating thing about Fallout is like Vault-Tec and Robco and all these companies.
yeah.
Um, so I think it plays into it's different. You don't see that a lot. Usually
No.
when it comes to like post-apocalyptic stuff like that, it's always like here's like the Mad Max tribe that popped up after the apocalypse wiped out 90% of humanity.
Right.
Here's how they function, and they usually don't function.
No.
Um, I like the kind of corporation set up the end of the world, and we're banking on this, and now this is what happens.
Right. Yeah, and there was like actual like there may have not been like criticisms about like government, but there sure were like criticisms of like the corporatization of America and
Mhm.
like big stuff like that and like Vault Tech essentially like dropping the bomb and like because it's profitable, allegories to maybe Iraq or something. I don't
Mhm.
know. I thought it was that part of it was really cool, and that reveal of like Walton Goggins like spying on his wife, and then uh, de-aged, uh, whatever Kyle MacLachlan shows up, and I'm like, oh, that,
Yeah.
oh no, don't do that, don't do that.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh no, what did they do to him?
Looks, don't,
It's funny.
he
It's
looks like
funny.
Dougie Jones.
Yeah, he looked exactly like Dougie Jones, like the facial expressions and everything. And I'm like, this is great. But even the framing of shots, I think they did really well because like it seems really weird if you don't play the games, but you play the games and you talk to someone and it's just like center frame, chest up shot, and they're just talking right at you. And some of the
Yeah.
show feels and it works.
It does. They didn't go like full on into that. It isn't like Silence of the Lambs where like every shot
No,
is like straight on. That would have
but you
been
can
weird.
tell they were kind of in that realm.
Right. Yeah. There's that angle. Um,
Yeah.
I am surprised we didn't see VATS, really. Like that.
No, I don't know how you do that.
I don't know. They did it in like RoboCop. You could do something
True.
like that. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm
But
kind of
like, what would
glad.
VATS
I don't know.
be?
I don't
Like,
know.
yeah,
I'm not
that'd be
saying
interesting.
that I'm wishing they added it. I'm just saying I'm surprised we didn't get like fan servicey stuff like that. Like,
Yeah,
obvious, like, remember
and that's a good
VATS? No, it is a good thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that it was pretty well done. What did you think about the main characters, Lucy and Maximus?
So I will say the casting is fantastic.
Yeah,
Um, got I forgot her name, but she's from what is that show? Yellow Jackets,
I think so.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I need to.
Um, I know Maximus from a really cheesy weed sitcom on Netflix, and
Yeah.
I can't take him seriously.
Oh,
And I
really?
think that fits into his character, but the first episode, I'm like, Why did they cast him in this? Like, he does not have a serious bone in his body, and he cannot act serious that well.
Oh, see, I
Yeah.
didn't get that from him, but
Yeah.
I haven't
Maybe it's
seen.
because I just knew what else he's done and
Sure,
the kind of character that he usually gets fit into for these kind of like lower budget shows. But I think
gotcha.
he fit really well. I think it fits the nerdy, like weird brotherhood guy.
Hmm.
I don't really I didn't care about Lucy or Maximus that much, but I enjoyed them on screen. They seemed like little like clowns just running around this wasteland, and they were pretty good together.
Yeah.
Um, but I think Walton Goggins and the Ghoul, the
Yes.
freaking sting that happens every time the Ghoul comes on screen, I laughed every single time. It is so good.
It's so sick.
The best part of the show.
Yeah, I think I gotta agree with you. I didn't care too much about the whole Lucy Maximus thing. I
Hmm.
wasn't, but that's also plays into Fallout. I don't care about
It
any of
does.
the main quests in, in
Yeah.
those games.
The side quests are always the best ones.
Yeah, and Walton Goggins is the side quest. Although I guess he does. He's
He gets a lot more
probably,
screen time at the end, but
yeah, and he gets like a lot of screen time like
mhm,
drop or whatever, which is cool. Um,
yes.
yeah, it's interesting. What do you think? I think there's been some discourse about the whole him being Vault Boy and the thumbs up representing something else. I didn't know if you knew the original. What?
No, I'm not very deep in Fallout lore at all.
Okay.
I feel like I feel like that's a better thing because I'm not
Yeah.
like looking at all these things in that kind of way. I
Hmm.
feel like Fallout is a game where you can take seriously to a point, but I don't want to like dig too far into it because it's going to become nonsensical and too nerdy at some point.
Probably.
Like it's going to get Warhammer-ish at some point, probably. Um,
Yeah, on that level.
but yeah, I didn't really care. I think it was a good tie. They didn't need to do it, but it makes sense for him being like this big like Hollywood star, and it makes the connection to his wife working for them and everything.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a clever way to kind of fit that in because I don't know how else they would have connected the two. Um,
I don't
but
know.
I think the whole Red Scare angle was cool. I
Hmm.
enjoyed it. It's also interesting, like seeing the pre-war America because it's all like 50s style, but it's like actually like 20, what is it,
Yeah. It's
2077 or whatever.
what we like to call retrofuturism.
Yes.
Yes.
So I can't really like speak on any of that because I don't know the politics of anything or like the state of anything
Mm.
because we're like we have interracial couples and everything.
Yeah.
Um, but the politics seem like it's stuck in the 1950s in terms of other things. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting mix. Um, but yeah, I thought it was a decent tie-in. It didn't need to happen, but it's like whatever. I'll give you the little like thumbs up thing. He doesn't
Sure.
look anything like Vault Boy, but
No, I think it's just like uh it's more like his like pose kind of sparked what would become the Vault Boy
yeah,
persona or whatever, the mascot that they designed.
yeah.
But I
It
actually,
plays over like the corporate exploitation of the show. Like,
yes.
yeah.
And I think that it was also like really smart to have him be like a Western star because
Hmm.
like in real life like John Wayne and Ronald Reagan were in like westerns and then were like big figureheads in like the right in like the 80s like after their like whatever their peak. So
Hmm.
having that be like a tie-in I think is really interesting. And I really liked the thumbs up thing because I think that's real. But like, you have to like, if you see a nuclear blast and it's bigger than your thumb, then why run?
Yeah.
Pretty
Hmm.
much. Um, I thought that that was super smart. I think that was a fan theory, and then like they kind of quasi confirmed it in like the first episode, which I thought was cool. I like that they're not taking the canon too seriously, and they're willing to
Right.
like, oh, that is
You
a
could
cool
stretch it a little bit.
explanation, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
I think just the entire like aesthetic and building out of the Vault Tech brand is one of the best things in video games. It's like
Yes.
it's so recognizable, but it's like also so dark and on the nose, but like so brilliant.
Yeah. It's always funny when something like that is conceived as satire becomes like big merchandise, you know? Where it's like, this is a big criticism of corporate America. Let's put it on a duffel bag and a t-shirt and a
Mhm.
and Nuka-Cola bottle. And it's just like that seems a little weird, but the actual like development of it in the games and in the show is really well done. I'm right there with you. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have a whole lot more to say. It's just it's a fun show in a universe that I enjoy. So,
Yeah, it revitalized my interest in the games,
mm.
and, like, my girlfriend hasn't played any of the games, so now we're kind of, like, going through and playing them,
Oh, well,
which is
that's cool.
fun, like,
Yeah,
because Fallout 3 is one that, like, it's so hard to get into Fallout 3. I know Fallout fans love Fallout 3,
I
but
disagree.
it takes forever
Yeah.
to get in there. Okay, the annoying Fallout fans love Fallout 3.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The diehards, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, but it's good once you get going. It's just like,
Uh-oh.
man, I was always a fan of 4 just because like you can actually have movement in a game that feels like it's from the 21st century.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
and graphics wise, it's not all gray or all orange. I don't do mods or anything on anything. I just want to play the game by itself. So I know I can
Yeah.
fix a lot of my issues with the other two games. But I mean, I think I hope they dive into vault experiments more because like I just got to the point in Fallout 3 where like you enter that simulation and there's like this little girl who's actually a scientist and is just like the most evil
Oh,
being in
yeah.
existence. That's a really fantastic mission. I love all of these like weird demented like vault kind of things.
Mhm.
I hope they do more of those. I think the other one that I really love is the one where like there's a cloning machine and it's just like full of one. I think it's like Gary.
It's the
I
Gary
forgot what
Vault.
game
Yeah,
it's in. The Gary Vault.
yeah. Uh-huh.
That is so cool.
Well, that's what's so brilliant about the vault concept in the
Yes.
games is that essentially you're walking into its own little Twilight Zone episode. And if you want to,
Hmm.
you can read the computers or whatever, get all the lore. And the best ones are really great self-contained, like just well-written fiction, you know?
Yep.
Um, and like I think we I don't we didn't really get so I guess a little bit in the vault that they like kind of stumble into where they're doing
Hmm.
like weirdo sacrifices and their genetic experiments or whatever, but it didn't like get to that level of like Vault 22 in New
Right.
Vegas where like all of the plants like it's just like all the plants are there and then there's like these sneaky little green guys that hide in the plants and you can't target them
Hmm.
with VATS or anything, so you actually have to spot them through their camouflage. It's like you don't really get anything to that level. I do hope they get into that. I agree.
Yeah. I do like the concept of the three vaults like
Yeah, that was
connected.
cool. Mhm.
That was really cool. I really enjoyed the vault storyline of like Lucy's vault a lot more than I thought I would. Um, I think when the show first started, I expected her to leave the vault and it to be like a typical like hero's journey. We're focusing on her, but
Sure.
I like how all the characters were split as protagonists.
Mhm.
Honestly, like she was my least favorite protagonist, but like I still enjoyed her story. But everything going on around her was just like really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I mean, it has the same start that well, there's a lot of nods to the first Fallout game where it's like something bad happens in the vault and then one of them has to leave in order to repair it. They even
Hmm.
mention at one point like their water chip is going out, and
Yeah.
that is why the original vault dweller in Fallout 1 leaves the vault to get the new water chip. And they end up, you know, stumbling into this major conspiracy. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I was such a big fan of the conspiracy stuff. I was just like, get back to the goal. I want more fun Walton
Yeah. True.
Goggins fun. um, yeah, like the investigation into Vault 32. But then like once he uncovered like all of the frozen uh Vault Tech employees, like, oh, that's kind of sick. That's a
Hmm.
cool concept of like
Yep.
Vault Tech keeping itself alive forever with this like weirdo brain in a jar running the whole thing. Like, oh, that's kind of sick.
Hmm.
Although that feels very Fallout because like Fallout 3,
Absolutely.
That has like doesn't isn't like the main bad guy in Fallout 3, doesn't they turn out to be a computer?
That's 4, but
That's
yes.
4?
Yeah.
I thought that that happens in 3.
So the synths are 4. They talk about them in 3.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
3 is a lot more disconnected than like the other 2 games.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's hard. I think they were cuz 3 was before New Vegas, right?
correct.
I think they were figuring out how they wanted to tell the story. Cuz it seems very like kind of I don't know. They have a main quest line, but it's not very enticing and everything around it is so much more interesting and it kind of meanders a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
um but yeah, no, I think the show's storyline still went over a lot better than I think three's storyline. New Vegas will never be topped. It's
No,
just perfect.
it is.
Fallout 4 story is interesting, but it's not as well. It could have been better. But
Yeah.
76, I have no idea because you're just chasing ghosts that whole game. I still have not gone back to it. I don't know if I ever will. I know that it is fixed now.
I don't
I
care.
don't know. Yeah, yeah. But I do have to shout out Matt Berry for being Mr. Hands.
Oh
He
yeah.
is incredible.
Matt Berry. What would I know him in?
What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, it's that guy.
Yes,
That's right. I when I saw him, I'm like, yo, it's that guy from What We Do in the
it's that
Shadow.
guy. He went on screen and I'm like, New York City.
Man, that's such a good show. I need to finish it.
Yeah, I haven't finished season 5 yet. Maybe we'll do a
Oh,
feature on that eventually.
that would be good. I like those vampire people. Yeah. So I guess that's it. Our next feature, a little sneak peek into what is to come, is another RPG. We're going to be talking about Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk. We're talking about another video game where there's a bug stuck in your head, and that's the main quest line is to get it out. We have not talked about a video game that has that same quest line yet.
That's true. That's
I
a
was
good
thinking
point.
about that. I'm like, I went from Baldur's Gate to Cyberpunk, and I'm like, wait, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just in a completely different universe.
That I actually didn't notice that until right now, and wow, I'm not going to be able to get that out of my
Yeah.
head. Much like how V isn't able to get Keanu Reeves out of his head.
Or me. Am I right, fellas?
Oh, all right, bye.